You are losing your brain every single day, and no one warned you. Not through illness, not through age, but through comfort, through scrolling, through silence disguised as peace. And if you don't stop it, you won't feel alive anymore. You are losing something every single day, quietly, invisibly. And if no one ever told you, you would keep losing it until one day it would be almost gone. You are losing your brain, not in a dramatic way, not in a way that sends you to a hospital, but in the most dangerous way possible. Slowly, comfortably, without pain. Your memory is getting weaker. Your focus is breaking into pieces. Your thoughts are becoming shorter, flatter, easier. And worst of all, you are starting to believe this is normal. You scroll for hours and call it relaxing. You repeat the same days and call it life. You avoid anything difficult and call it peace. And then one day, a strange feeling appears. You forget names. You lose words. You can't stay with a thought. Life feels dull, heavy, empty. You wake up tired, go to sleep tired, and somewhere in between, your mind feels dim. Not sad, not depressed, just less alive. That is not age. That is not bad luck. That is a brain that is no longer being used, because anything that is not challenged does not stay the same. It declines, and the modern world is perfectly designed to make that decline feel comfortable. Here on Glaze English, we don't pretend that this is normal, and we don't treat your mind like something fragile. We treat it like something powerful that is being neglected. This video is not for people who want soft motivation or quick tips. This is for people who feel that something inside them is fading and refuse to let it die quietly. In this video, you are going to learn the 16 most powerful habits to rebuild your brain. Not popular advice, not trends. Real mental weapons used to restore clarity, memory, focus, creativity, and inner fire. Habits that make your brain younger, not by comfort, but by challenge. But before we go any further, if you want more content that sharpens you, not entertains you, support the channel by subscribing now. It helps Glaze English continue creating videos that don't waste your time. Videos built to make you stronger, clearer, and more awake. Because if you don't take control of your brain, something else will. And it will never care whether you stay alive inside. Let's begin. If part 1 shook you, this part will explain why it had to. Because before we talk about habits, routines, or techniques, you need to understand what your brain really is and what it is not. Your brain is not a machine that stays strong just because you own it. It is not a storage box that works forever as long as you feed it information. And it is not something that naturally improves with time. Your brain is a living system. And every living system follows the same brutal rule. Whatever is not demanded slowly disappears. Your brain was built for pressure, for uncertainty, for problem solving, for remembering what matters, for adapting to new environments, for reading danger, navigating complexity, learning patterns, and creating meaning. For most of human history, the brain had to work to survive. Today, it rarely has to work for anything. Food arrives without effort. Answers appear without thinking. Entertainment flows without attention. Social contact happens without depth. Discomfort is avoided, delayed, and removed the moment it appears. So your brain does what all biological systems do when they are no longer needed at full capacity. It downshifts. It closes circuits. It shortens attention. It weakens memory. It chooses speed over depth, reaction over reflection, comfort over growth. Not because it hates you, but because its primary goal is not intelligence, creativity, or wisdom. Its primary goal is to save energy. A brain that is not challenged will always choose the easiest path. And over time, the easiest path becomes the only path it knows. That is why comfort feels so attractive. That is why scrolling feels so natural. That is why repetition feels safe. And that is why they slowly make your mind smaller. A young brain is not defined by how old you are. It is defined by how often your brain is forced to adapt. Confusion forces adaptation. Difficulty forces adaptation. Newness forces adaptation. Struggle forces adaptation. These are not obstacles to a good life. They are the very conditions that keep the mind alive. The problem is not that life is hard. The problem is that life has become too easy for the brain. So if you want a stronger mind, you cannot build it by asking, "How do I feel better?" You build it by asking, "What is demanding something real from my brain today?" The habits you are about to hear are not designed to make you comfortable. They are designed to make you mentally active again. They are built to interrupt automatic behavior, to force awareness, to restore depth, and to push your brain back into the state it was meant to live in. They will not always feel good, but they will make you alive. And that is the real work. And once you understand that a brain only stays alive when it is demanded, the question is no longer why. The question becomes how. How do you force your brain back into growth in a world designed to keep it asleep? You do it through deliberate disruption, through habits that interrupt automation, through actions that make your mind work again. These are not motivational ideas. These are daily pressures that rebuild the brain from the inside. The first weapon is deceptively small. Use your non-dominant hand. The hand you don't brush your teeth with. The hand you don't eat with. The hand your brain almost ignores. The moment you switch, something changes. Movements slow down. Attention sharpens. Frustration appears. And that frustration is not weakness. It is your brain leaving autopilot. New neural pathways are being forced into existence. You are not training a hand. You are reminding your brain how to learn. The second weapon is to do one hard thing every day. Not a dramatic thing, a hard thing. Something that creates resistance inside you. Speaking when you want to stay silent. Studying when you want to escape. Exercising when your mind argues. Having a conversation you have been avoiding. The brain does not stay young through inspiration. It stays young through friction. One hard thing a day keeps the mind from collapsing into comfort. The third weapon is daily separation from screens, not as a detox, as a restoration. When your eyes stop jumping and your fingers stop scrolling, your brain is forced back into continuity. Thought becomes longer, awareness becomes deeper, emotions become clearer. Without constant stimulation, the brain relearns how to stay with the moment. Silence is not empty. It is the space where cognition repairs itself. The fourth weapon is real sleep. Not unconsciousness with light and noise, real darkness, real quiet, real depth. Sleep is when the brain cleans itself, organizes memory, stabilizes emotion, and restores clarity. But it can only do that when the environment signals safety and night. A distracted sleep produces a distracted mind. A protected sleep produces a capable one. The fifth weapon is walking alone in nature without your phone. Not for fitness, for neurological reset. Nature slows the nervous system. It expands perception. It restores sensory depth. When you walk without consuming content, your mind begins to generate its own. Thoughts surface. Memories reorganize. Stress discharges. Creativity returns. This is not poetic. It is biological. The brain was not built to live inside rectangles. The sixth weapon is reading that challenges you, not what entertains you, not what confirms you, what stretches you. When a book forces you to pause, disagree, or rethink, it is not annoying your brain, it is activating higher circuits. Confusion is not a sign of stupidity, it is a sign that your mind is touching new structure. The seventh weapon is trying to remember before you check, before you reach for your phone, before you ask again, before you outsource. Pause. Search. Let the discomfort of not knowing sharpen your attention. Memory is not strengthened by access, it is strengthened by effort. Each time you force recall, you reinforce the networks that make memory possible. The eighth weapon is doing something you are bad at, intentionally, regularly. Public speaking, music, drawing, a new language, a complex skill. When you are bad at something, your ego steps back and your brain steps forward. Failure forces presence. It creates feedback. It activates learning circuits that competence never touches. Growth does not happen where you look smart. It happens where you struggle. The ninth weapon is deep conversation. Not performance, not small talk. Depth. Questions that carry emotion. Listening that requires attention. Sharing that involves risk. Meaningful dialogue activates memory, empathy, pattern recognition, and emotional processing at once. The social brain is one of the most complex systems you have. When it is unused, the mind becomes shallow. When it is engaged, cognition becomes alive. The 10th weapon is changing your routines, not your whole life, your patterns. Walk different streets, rearrange your environment, alter your sequence, eat in new places, work at new angles. Small changes interrupt neurological prediction, and prediction is what keeps the brain asleep. Surprise forces perception. Variation forces adaptation. Adaptation keeps the brain young. The 11th weapon is teaching what you learn. The moment you try to explain something, your brain is forced to organize it, to structure it, to retrieve it, to simplify it. Teaching transforms information into understanding. It converts experience into memory. It is one of the fastest ways to move knowledge from short-term awareness into long-term architecture. The 12th weapon is strategic games. Games that require planning, foresight, pattern recognition, memory, chess, puzzles, word structures, logical systems. These forms of play rebuild sustained attention and executive function. They are not escapes. They are simulations of thinking itself. The 13th weapon is intermittent fasting. Periods where you do not immediately feed appetite. Hunger shifts chemistry. It sharpens perception. It increases alertness. It reduces mental noise. When digestion pauses, cognitive energy rises. Fasting teaches the brain that it does not collapse without comfort, and that lesson alone restores a deep sense of control. The 14th weapon is brainwriting. Not brainstorming out loud, writing in silence, with a timer, without editing, without distraction. The first thoughts are easy. The next are uncomfortable. The next are real. When the surface layer empties, deeper cognition emerges. Brainwriting trains your mind to move past obvious ideas and into original structure. The 15th weapon is cold exposure. Cold forces immediate presence. Breath sharpens. Awareness heightens. Panic rises. And if you stay, control develops. Cold training is not about temperature. It is about mastering the stress response, teaching the nervous system that discomfort is not danger, that you can remain stable while sensation screams. The 16th weapon is memorization. One poem, one verse, one passage, one structure each week. Spoken, written, repeated. Memory work rebuilds focus, sequencing, emotional connection, and cognitive endurance. When you memorize, your brain is forced to hold, organize, and protect information. In an outsourced world, this is radical, and it is powerful. Each of these habits activates a different system: attention, memory, emotion, perception, adaptation, control. Together, they form an ecosystem, not a routine, a training environment, a way of living that constantly tells the brain, you are needed. And when the brain is needed, it changes. It thickens circuits. It deepens focus. It sharpens perception. It stabilizes emotion. It restores inner energy. Not because you motivated it, because you demanded something real from it. That is how a mind is rebuilt. Not through comfort, through participation. Not through stimulation, through engagement. Not through escape, through pressure. This is not about doing all 16 perfectly. It is about choosing not to live neurologically idle. It is about refusing to let your days pass without ever challenging the system that creates your experience of life itself. Because every time you use these weapons, something subtle but powerful happens. Your brain stops shrinking and starts responding. And when you start living this way, something becomes impossible to ignore. This was never about habits. It was about identity. These practices are not lifestyle upgrades. They are acts of resistance. Resistance against a world that makes the mind passive, against routines that quietly erase depth, against a culture that trains people to consume, not to think. Your brain is not designed to protect your potential. It is designed to protect energy. It will always choose what is easier, faster, and safer unless you deliberately intervene. And if you do not, the system runs on its own, automatically, comfortably, downhill. This is why mental decline almost never feels like an emergency. It feels like normal life. It feels like being busy. It feels like being entertained. It feels like being connected. Until one day, clarity is rare, focus is painful, silence is uncomfortable, and the inner world feels thin, not broken, just empty. What these weapons really do is interrupt that slow collapse. They force awareness back into the body. They return effort to the mind. They restore friction to thinking. And friction is what gives the mind shape. This is not about becoming smarter. It is about becoming present again. It is about rebuilding a mind that can stay with a thought, feel an emotion fully, solve a problem without running, and experience life without needing constant escape. Most people will never notice what is happening to them. They will confuse stimulation with life, activity with meaning, comfort with peace. And because they never question it, they slowly adapt to less. But once you see it, you are no longer innocent. You cannot unsee what ease does to awareness. You cannot unknow how quickly a mind decays without demand. And you cannot unknow that it can be rebuilt. The moment you understand this, responsibility moves into your hands. Not to be perfect, but to stay awake. Because a mind that is not actively shaped is always being shaped by something else. And if responsibility is now in your hands, then this is where everything becomes real. Because insight without action changes nothing. If even one idea in this video stirred something in you, do not let it fade into another forgotten moment. Choose one weapon today, not as a challenge, as a declaration. A declaration that your mind is not something you abandon. A declaration that you will no longer live on mental autopilot. Use it. Practice it. Let it demand something from you. Because every time you place your brain under real pressure, you are shaping the instrument through which you experience your entire life. And if you want to continue this path, if you want more content built to sharpen awareness, strengthen focus, and protect what is most valuable inside you, then stay with this channel. We are not here to fill time. We are here to build minds that can hold life. And that work begins now. What all of this ultimately comes down to is not habits, routines, or techniques. It comes down to something far more fundamental. The condition of the instrument through which you experience your entire life. Your brain is not just where thoughts happen. It is where meaning is created. It is where motivation is born. It is where memory, identity, emotion, creativity, and perception all meet. The quality of your brain quietly becomes the quality of your life. When the brain weakens, everything weakens with it. Attention shortens, emotions flatten, curiosity fades, days blur together, time feels faster, and life begins to feel smaller, not because the world changed, but because the mind that interprets it lost its sharpness. That is why this message is not really about staying young. It is about staying present, staying capable, staying awake inside your own existence. Every habit in this system has one hidden purpose: to return responsibility back to you, not to your phone, not to your environment, not to motivation, to you. They are designed to reintroduce effort where comfort has taken over, to bring depth back where distraction dominates, to rebuild a mind that can focus, remember, feel, think, and create without needing constant stimulation. The deeper lesson is simple, but not easy. A strong life cannot be built on a weak mind, and a strong mind is never given. It is shaped. The modern world will never protect your brain. It will entertain it, stimulate it, occupy it, but it will not challenge it in the ways that make it grow. That responsibility does not belong to technology, culture, or education anymore. It belongs to you. The way you apply this is not by trying to change everything at once. It is by changing the relationship you have with discomfort. Instead of avoiding it, you start using it. You choose small daily actions that require presence, effort, and awareness. You protect silence. You protect sleep. You protect memory. You protect depth. And over time, these choices compound into something powerful. A mind that can stay with a thought. A mind that can face challenge without collapsing. A mind that can experience life fully instead of watching it pass. That is what it means to truly rebuild your brain. Now I'd like to ask you a simple question. Which one habit from this video do you feel would help you the most right now, and why? Please share your answer in the comments. Your perspective may help someone else who is reading and deciding where to begin. And if this content gave you value, support the channel by subscribing. It helps Glaze English continue creating videos that don't just fill time, but strengthen minds.